This is Operation B, the podcast about living with intention, building what feels true, and dropping the things that don't. A place where purpose meets practice. I'm Jamie Thurber, your host, and together we'll explore how to live with clarity, freedom, and alignment without burning out or losing yourself, because it's time to be who you're meant to be. Let's get into it. This episode of Operation B is brought to you by Premium Kitchen and Bath. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Operation B. This is Jamie Thurber, your host, and today we're going to jump into something that I've thought about so many times, but actually have not ever talked about out loud, besides I think one time recently with somebody. So I thought, okay, I cannot be, and they agreed so much. They're like, oh my God, yes, I do the same thing. So I thought, all right, we cannot be the only humans that have this situation. So we're going to talk about it on the show. I'll kind of explain the scenario before we get started, or before I dive into it, so you kind of understand. It's like a situational thing where when you're somebody who's managing a lot of things, you're still human and you'll have moments that feel stressful or overwhelming, or you're like, ugh, I don't want to do that thing, or gosh, if another bad thing happens, like what the hell? Because we're human and we're allowed to have those feelings. Something that I've learned in my 30s, I'd say, is like, as a woman, we're told not to have some of those feelings, like frustration, anger, being upset, like you're too emotional. Nobody wants that here. Like, you're taught not to act that way, basically. So what that means on the inside of you is when someone tells you that you're not supposed to be expressing those emotions, what your system feels it as, you're not supposed to have those emotions. So that when you do have them, you feel like something's wrong, which is why a lot of women, you'll hear things like them having big outbursts or they'll feel like that's what's happening, or a woman will be so upset, like mad, wise, she'll cry. And it's these emotions that we're not allowed to have. And so something that's come from that I've noticed is I would not ask for help, right? And so I have all these coaches and people who have been like, you have to let people help you. I'm like, okay, we can do that. And I started to get better about asking for help. There's two things that happen, though, that are the negatives for that I have to navigate. One is when you ask for help and you're not met. It's disappointing. It can make you feel kind of empty, honestly, when you're like, okay, look, I mustered up this energy and like brain capacity to, in the moment, ask for help. And then I was met with this like, sure, I'll do that. And then they don't. And it's like, ugh. It's so defeating and like deflates you. The other one is what I want to talk about today, and that is people then start to like, have you ever heard people talk about don't spend your client's money? Like, meaning you don't make the decision of like, oh, they don't have enough money for this, because you don't know someone else's situation or what's important to them or not important to them. So it's kind of the same concept of people will then start to spend and budget my energy and my time when I tell them that I'm stressed or overwhelmed. They will stop bringing things to me. This has happened with clients. This happens with, it's something that I think a lot of people do subconsciously. They don't realize they're doing it. But if they see you carrying a lot, they will start not bringing things to your plate. The problem about that is they're not helping you. They think they're helping you or protecting you, but what they're actually doing is making your life harder, because those things that they're no longer bringing to your plate or to your table are things that you have to handle. They're your things to deal with. And so when they don't bring them to you, what does that do? It creates more work, more frustration. Now you have to have a conversation with the person who thought they were protecting you by budgeting your energy on your behalf, which is also very presumptuous to do by anybody. But it creates this also, again, very defeated feeling. And it also is like, if I was a guy, I'd say it's demasculating, right? Well, it's the similar concept. It's also quite disrespectful of somebody who is a professional, right? Like, I'm a grown woman and I'm allowed to manage my own plate and my own things that I'm dealing with. And when I ask for help, that's great. But if I'm not asking for help and I'm just expressing my feelings, or you've observed that I have a lot going on, please don't take it into your hands to then tell me what I can and cannot handle, or decide you're going to hold things back, because what happens is we miss deadlines, there's confusion, there's frustration that could have all been avoided. Something that I've learned in my time with operations is that I really try my best to not waste time. I try to reduce the number of touches, meaning for me to get from point A to point B, I want to touch the process as small amount of times as possible. So when somebody else decides they're going to step in and navigate and like determine how I'm monitoring my own energy, it adds a lot of unnecessary steps and emotional work to that process. It's not protecting. So it's one of those deals where it's like the power here is transparency. The real support someone can give you, and I'm really saying this because maybe you're someone who's listening to this and saying, "Oh my God, I thought I was the only one." Like I've totally experienced that. Or maybe you're listening to this and you're saying, "Oh shit, I think I do that and I didn't realize." A lot of us fall on both sides of the coin, right? So the point of this is to share all of the perspectives and kind of explain how we create something different, how we create a more actually productive and supportive way forward that doesn't cost you energy and time, but also doesn't cause the other person to be frustrated, hurt, feeling less than, because that's really it is. It's like, oh, well, you're deciding that I'm not capable or whatever it may be, which isn't cool either, especially because it happens more to women in leadership from what I find, but it also happens especially when someone is emotionally aware. And often people who are not as emotionally aware are the ones who are doing this to you. So I hope maybe these are some like light bulb moments for people so they can be like, oh, I didn't realize that. So the real support is transparency. What I mean by that is you're not protecting somebody by not being honest and open about what's happening with them or what you need from them. If their job or their role in your world or your business or your life is to help with things, to progress, if you're not sharing things with them, that's not helpful. Not even a little bit. You're hurting everyone around you with that. That could cost a company a ton of money. It could cost everyone a ton of time. And it's the expenditure of energy in that way is so much bigger that it's not helping anybody. The key moment that I think a lot of people then feel guilty, but it's like, for example, I remember sitting in a meeting when I started running the production company, and someone was actively trying to navigate and manage my time on my behalf for whatever reason they took that upon themselves. And I sat in the meeting and I was like, listen, I took all of this on. I am not complaining. I am being honest. I am being transparent. I am making you aware of what is transpiring so that we're on the same page, right? So that we can be more productive and all of those things. That's the piece where it's like, that's what we're looking for as a collective, supportive, self-aware, or emotionally responsible team. That's the stuff you're looking for in other people, not deciding that I'm going to make decisions on your behalf because I think you're stressed out today. Like I remember there's a couple of very important things that the person like didn't tell me because they're like, well, I didn't want to put more on your plate. I'm like, dude, you just made a small situation into a huge fire because of that choice. So I think we need to do a couple things. Like I feel like you should make sure that your roles in any team or a relationship are clear. You should make sure that you're aware of how you would like things communicated with you, because that also helps people realize, oh, I'd rather tell you this and we work on it together. And then I understand you can be, a strategic problem solver and manage the need of the situation better. We just need to learn to have respect and communication with the people that we're doing business with or having tight relationships with. So that's something that I don't think anybody really talks about. So I think it deserves a spotlight. I think we have to realize that truth is so very underrated, and it doesn't have to be harsh. I'll end with this note. One of my least favorite things is people that used to run around and say, but I'm just being honest. Sorry if I'm an asshole. I'm like, no, that's not the same thing. Like being honest because it gives you the opportunity to be a jerk is not the same thing as being emotionally aware enough to tell someone what's actually happening so that they can have the truth and then make decisions based on truth. So those two things are not the same. But I think if we could find that and adopt that in more situations that we have in our lives, we'd all be better off. What that does, though, is it also allows like a blank slate for each person to have a clear understanding of what is on their agenda or their plate for that day, that week, whatever, so that we can all continuously be moving forward instead of this like circle roundy round that people like to stay on. I'm not a big fan of merry-go-rounds. I like to go around and get off. Like that's where I'm at. So I think if we did that more often and we're more understanding of how that looks for other people, that it could be extremely valuable. If you liked this message or you related to it, let me know, comment below, or save this and come back to it later. Share it with somebody that you think could benefit from it. And as always, make sure that you like, share, comment, come back later, have another conversation with us. This episode is brought to you by Trueline Media Group, Premium Kitchen and Bath, and Spas and More. We'll put all their information below if you'd like to check them out. And until next time, guys, have a good day. You know, I used to think hot tubs were just for fancy vacations or luxury houses. But then I met Angie at Spas and More, this family-owned and operated business right here in St. Louis. She showed me how these master spas aren't just luxurious, they're about wellness. I actually got to try one out in their showroom, and it made me realize how much better I feel after a soak. If you want to experience what actually fits your lifestyle, go see Angie and her team in Sunset Hills. It's like test driving your own wellness. Visit Spas and More in Sunset Hills or online at spasandmorestl.com. Thank you for listening to Operation B, the podcast. To support this message and to support the show, please make sure that you like, follow, and share wherever you enjoy listening. And be sure to leave us a review on iTunes. That's the way to support this message. Thank you for being here, and see you next time.